Hey everyone, Roy Raven from Salem on Foot here. Hope you're doing well with your self-quarantine, your social distancing, these kind of weird times that we're in. I know it's going to be a long time before a lot of you can come to Salem and take a walking tour, so I wanted to post a series of short videos to try to bring the walking tour to you, so you can kind of visit Salem virtually until you can really do it finally here in person. Now, Salem is one of the oldest, used to be one of the wealthiest, and is now definitely one of the strangest cities you're ever going to visit. Its origins go back to the 1600s when a man takes over a failing fishing village. Now, one of the cherished myths of American history is that we're founded on religious freedom, the right to follow whatever religion we want, right? Wrong. A lot of the colonies start out as business ventures. And in the 1620s, a company in England called the Dorchester Company has a fishing village, a business venture, up on Cape Ann. It's about 30 guys catching fish, salting the cod to send back to England, trying to make some money in the New World. But it's not going well. It's been limping along for a couple of years. It's apparently a bad location. There's probably some mismanagement. Guys have given up and gone home. It's looking like this fishing village is going to fail. To get this turned around, the manager of the Dorchester Company enlists the aid of a man named Roger Conant. Roger Conant had come over from England a few years before. He ended up down in Plymouth with the Pilgrims, but Conant is not a Pilgrim, doesn't get along with the Pilgrims, doesn't really fit in, so he has left Plymouth. He's kind of looking for the next chapter of his life when he accepts this job offer from the Dorchester Company to take over the management of this failing fishing village up on Cape Ann. Conant moves out there with his family, 1625, 1626, and surveys the situation, realizes this is never going to work. It's a bad location. It's just not going to work. He needs to make some tough decisions. He has heard about this other place further down the coast, this place called Namkeeg by the local American Indians. Namkeeg is the name of the tribe that lives here, but they also use that name to refer to the area. Namkeeg apparently means fishing or fishing place, so they know the fishing has to be better down there. So Conant makes the decision to pack up this fishing colony, move it down the coast, and resettle with this new place called Namkeeg. Better harbor, better fishing, just a better location overall. Now, I like to read a lot of the 19th century histories. They tend to be a little more colorful, a little more narrative. But when you read 19th century histories, they tend to be great white men doing great white deeds. You have to take that stuff with a grain of salt. One of the histories I read said that when the planters, we call these guys planters, they're fishermen, but we call them planters because you're planting colonies in the New World. When the planters arrive here, it's okay to move into this Namkeeg area because the local Indians, they say, are finished using the area, which is not exactly true. The tribes are still living here, and the planters move in and are living cheek by jowl with the native tribes. And things actually go better than you would expect. They're both kind of curious. There is some tension between the two groups. They're both sort of curious about one another. I think they both feel like they've kind of met the Martians for the first time. The one thing, though, that does kind of bring them together, the one thing that does make them put aside their differences is the planters and the tribes. They both hate the French up in Canada. So now things start to move in the right direction. This fishing village, Namkeeg, has some modest success. It's not easy. Colonists never had an easy time here in the New World. But things are moving kind of in the right direction. Just like today, companies go out of business, other companies buy out their stuff. The Dorchester Company goes out of business in 1628, and their interests in the New World get taken over by another group called the New England Company. The New England Company wants their guy in charge. So 1628, a fellow named John Endicott arrives here in town. John Endicott takes over from Conant, the way Conant had taken over before him. And Conant steps aside. There's a fairly peaceful transition of power from Conant over to Endicott. Now, Endicott does two things that are kind of important for our purposes. First is he renames this little fishing village. He renames Namkeeg. He calls it Salem, coming from Hebrew, shalom, for peace. The second thing that Endicott does that is important is that Endicott is a Puritan, a fairly devout one at that. Now, I grew up in New England. I grew up hearing about the Puritans, Puritan this, Puritan that. No one ever explained to me who the Puritans were and what they were all about. Puritans are part of the Church of England, but they are a reform movement within the church. They think the Church of England has become too decadent, too corrupt, too Catholic, and they want to purify the church. And their approach, their way of doing this, is to leave England, come over here to the New World, and start over. They will set up what they call a Bible Commonwealth, run according to strict Puritan principles. They'll build that city on a hill, and then corrupt old Europe will see what's going on in the New World. They'll clean up their act, they'll get with the program, and they will follow the example being set here in the New World by the Puritans living here. So they're a reform movement within the Church of England. And once Endicott arrives here, being kind of high-profile Puritan. He then makes Salem, as he's now calling it, much more appealing to other Puritans. So Puritans start to move here. And Salem's character kind of changes from this fishing village into a more Puritan settlement. Even though he's no longer in charge, Roger Conant stays on the scene. He's kind of an important elder statesman here in town. This is the guy you go to for advice, sort of guy you want on your side if you're trying to persuade people. So he's still an important figure here in town. So important that in the 19-teens we erect this large statue to him right there behind me. A lot of people think it's a witch, but no, it's actually a statue of Roger Conant. So that is Roger Conant on the founding of Salem.